Hello, this video is about a Tinder comment that I recently received and my response to it. I was thinking that this might be insightful for people who don't use the apps and who don't understand why it's so difficult to date people from these apps. Everyone's like, why are you single? It's like comments like these is why I'm single. People like this is why I'm single. So this comment was from Matthew, 27, from Manchester, who works at the civil service. So if you know Matthew, tell him I said hi. He decided to match with me and then send me a message that said the following. So it said something to this effect. He's unmatched me, so I can't actually share the messages or share his picture, unfortunately. I should have screenshotted that before this happened, but I wasn't expecting this to happen because I thought he might be a decent person. So anyway, he messaged and says, I don't think that we're a match, I think that we're looking for different things, but just thought I'd tell you that I like your vibe, like that you do book reviews, and here are 2 books that you might like or whatever. Take them or leave them or something, he said like that. And my intuition was telling me when I read this message not to reply, because there's a lot of subliminal messaging in that message that indicated a prediction of what actually came to pass. So I should have trusted my intuition. Like, I knew this was going to happen. I ignore it because obviously my intuition's a prejudice. So I was like ignoring them. And then yes, he turns out to be exactly as I predicted. What I would say about that message is that, firstly, any kind of normal person would look at somebody's bio and kind of decide from that whether or not they were interested in that person. I've made it very clear on my bio what I'm looking for, what I'm not looking for, and quite clearly he would have been able to tell that before we even matched. So he's wasted my time by matching with me in the first place, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you are just looking at someone's pictures and you haven't read the bio, which is fair enough, because if you're on there a lot, that's what you might do, fair enough. Then when you do match with somebody, you look at their bio before you message them. And then if they're not what you're looking for, you don't message them, because what is the point? Like, why would I want a message from someone who doesn't want to match with me and who, is looking for different things or whatever? Like, I'm on Tinder for dating purposes, so if a date's not going to come to fruition, what are you messaging me for? Like, I'm not here for friends. Like, there are other apps for that. So first off, that's really confusing. Like, why would you do that? The second thing is that, he's kind of almost like, he's telling me that he likes my vibe and he's telling me that he likes my book reviews, but I'm not insecure. Like, I don't need you to tell me that you like my vibe. Like, there's lots of people that like my vibe. I like my vibe. I don't need you to tell me that you're some random person who, doesn't want to date me, so why are you messaging me? And then he's saying things like he likes my book reviews. Well, lots of people like my book reviews. Like, you don't need to tell me this. Like, I don't need your validation. Like, I'm not on Tinder for an ego boost, for, someone to stroke my ego. I'm not looking for someone to fulfill my empty heart. Like, I'm looking for a relationship, which is quite clear from my profile. So I don't really need you to boost my confidence and, oh, we didn't match, but, I like this about you. I don't care. Like, whatever. It's completely unnecessary. And then the other thing as well is, like, I made it very clear on my profile that I read 104 books last year. I've read a lot of books. What on earth makes you think, as a stranger who doesn't know me or anything about me, think that you can recommend books to me that I would like? That's just a complete lack of empathy, isn't it? Because you're assuming, and also kind of self-righteousness, because you're assuming that you know what I would like, but you don't know anything about me. It's just odd. It's very odd. So that's why that message intuitively to me kind of told me don't reply. But, I was, trying not to be prejudiced, so I replied. I said thanks, and I did look at the books on Goodreads, and the first one looked okay, so added it to my to read list. Always open to suggestions from people, even though they're often from their own vantage point and not a consideration of my vantage point. Everyone's got different tastes in books, and I think when you recommend a book, you've got to consider the likes and dislikes of that person. You can't just blanket and go, this is a good book, this is not a good book, because different people are different perceptions of what makes a good book. You know, your personality very much influences what you like about a book, and if you've got quite a generic personality, you're gonna like generic books. Like, that's just what's gonna happen. So you know, you can suggest a book to someone who's quite generic. I mean, think of it like wine. Like, when you drink wine at first, you like all wine. There's some wines that you might not like, but you like pretty much all. You can't really tell the difference between the different wines. Like, you know, it's just wine. But when you drink wine a lot, you start to refine your taste and you start to understand the differences between the different grapes, and then you become more understanding of what you like and what you don't like and what you like more than others. And it's the same with books. The more that you read, the more refined your taste gets, and you like books that other people don't like, and vice versa. So I don't think you can really suggest a book to someone that reads a lot, because they're not going to have the same perception as you. You know, this guy, I have no idea how much this guy reads, but I doubt it's very much if he's suggesting like these books to me with that in mind, that he thinks that that'd be appropriate for me. But anyway, so I said thanks, and I said the first book looks good, and I said the second book looks a little bit, because it was about American politics and it was about identity politics within like America, and that to me screams socialism, because socialists are often, you know, talk about identity politics, or left-wing politics is identity politics. You know, Bernie Sanders in America with, you know, AOC, and Jeremy Corbyn, Rebecca Long Bailey, Angela Rayner. It's all kind of, you know, identity politics is something that is a massive discussion point for leftist politicians. And so I'd said, it reminds me of Douglas Murray, and I put right-wing propaganda in a laughing face, because I'm only half joking, Douglas Murray does make some kind of good points. And he's like, oh, it's definitely not Douglas Murray. It's a socialist critique of identity politics. And I was like, a socialist critique? Like, socialists are like all about identity politics. How can you say that it's a socialist critique? I mean, I didn't say that, but that's what I was kind of implying by the comment. And he was like, oh no, libs are identity politics. No offense, but you sound like a lib. And I was like, what? Like, what is this guy chatting? Like, liberals are for individual liberty and freedom. They don't collect themselves in groups into identity politics like leftists do. I mean, it's just a bizarre kind of comment to make, that socialists are not in terms of identity politics. And I said, I'm not a lib. And I also said, what did I say? I said something like, I've been to a Labour rally where they're all calling each other comrade and talking about identity politics. So comrade, socialism, identity politics. And he responded back with something about young people not having pinned down their political ideology yet. And I was like, well, I wasn't talking about the young people, I'm talking about the leaders have actually spoken about comrade and identity politics. And I was like, this guy's never been to a Labour rally. This guy knows nothing about identity politics and leftist politics at all. He's probably read this one book and thinks that, you know, that's shaped his whole entire viewpoint or whatever, God knows. But I was like, I don't know how you can have such a base opinion like that that's so incorrect. Like, it's pretty clear that leftist politics is identity politics. This is the reason why leftist governments don't get in, because it disenfranchises the majority of the people, because they're not the minorities. You know, identity politics is all about minorities, and you can't win an election if you're just for the minorities. Like, this doesn't really make sense. That's why socialism never gets in. You know, socialism's all about equality, and that's why it aligns itself with identity politics, because if you can bring equality to the minorities, then that's equality for all, and it takes it away from the people that are the majority that have more power. Like, this is kind of the way that it works. And I'm like, how does this guy not know this? And then he starts talking about race and D'Angelo and white fragility and things like that. And I was like, I mean, identity politics is much broader than just race. Like, it encompasses a lot of things, and you can't really just like bag it all together with race. You know, race is something which affects like quite like a bigger proportion than what other kind of, although actually I suppose identity politics is women as well, isn't it? Just half the population, so what am I talking about? But I was like, that's got nothing to do with what we were just talking about it being identity politics and the left. And I'm like, what? And then he's talking about like biases, and I was like, this doesn't even follow. This is not a logical argument. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And before I got a chance to reply, he was like, oh, well, I'm not going to argue. Like, I didn't want an argument, ha ha. And I was like, you clearly did want an argument, because I'm not thinking of this as an argument. I'm thinking of this of you've made a comment which is not completely correct, and I'm challenging it because it's not my understanding of politics, and you are thinking that it's an argument because I'm disagreeing with your opinion. And I'm like, wow, this guy can't be challenged. Like, he doesn't like to be challenged on his opinion. And I wasn't being rude. I was just being assertive. I was just saying like what I actually thought about it. It's like, it says on my profile I'm interested in politics, and you've started to talk to me about politics. You can't expect me to just go along with what you're going to say. Like, I'm going to challenge what you're saying if I don't agree with it, or I think that you're uninformed. Like, if I feel like you don't actually know about politics, because you clearly don't. Like, a lot of the things he was saying was just not correct, and I'm just like, it's not an opinion thing. It's like it's right there in your face. It's obvious. So to not kind of know that, I mean, you must have been living in a shed for the past 5 years, because it's everywhere. Like, identity politics is a massive issue for leftist politics. Like, this is why the right keeps winning. But then after I was about to reply, he just unmatched me. Didn't even give me the opportunity to respond to him, and I was just like, what was the purpose of this exchange and this conversation? Because he had no interest in dating me, because he was obviously just looking to just sleep with anybody, which I find really strange as well, because this guy was kind of like a beta male. Like, he wasn't someone who could go around and just sleep with whoever they wanted. Like, you have to kind of like bear in mind that you can't expect people to want to sleep with you if you haven't got anything to offer. Like, if you're not physically attractive in that kind of stereotypical way, people don't want to just sleep with you. Like, they kind of want, people that when they're looking for relationships would kind of not go for someone who's as attractive, because they get other qualities from them, like respect and understanding and tolerance and loyalty, and not promiscuous and sleeping with everybody. Like, there's a trade-off, and if you've got nothing to offer, then I mean, but that's his choice anyway. But yeah, I just found this really kind of like bewildering, because what was this purpose of this conversation? Like, did he think that he was going to suddenly boost my self-esteem by saying how much he liked my vibe and my book reviews, and he was gonna expand my mind and my understanding and knowledge by suggesting these books to me? I mean, the second book didn't even seem that great, because like I said, a socialist critique of identity politics. What like, what was the purpose? And then when I disagree with his opinions, he just gets arsey. Like, I mean, apparently I'm not allowed to have an opinion because I'm a female and all that jazz. But anyway, so this is what you have to put up with on Tinder. You have to put up with guys that don't want to date you but want to challenge you and tell you you're wrong anyway. So yeah, brilliant experience. I am glad that he's unmatched me, because there's no bloody way that I would go on a date with you, pal, and I definitely wouldn't sleep with you.